He always, when I get ID, they're just like, really? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm 32.
You don't want to come in here, little girls. It's ugly. Go home.
Yeah, so.
But full time, 1 year already. Good job.
1 year.
Nice.
It's a beautiful struggle. And I would go to your like the artist panels, and I would hear W and Mr. Soul and everyone talk about, leaving to do their art and like, some of the struggles that they go through. And I was just like, okay, how can I not go through, some of those struggles like money wise? And I was just like, no, I was so scared of that because I was just like, I don't want to fall behind. Like everything was going great. Like, I worked like 3 jobs and then, I had money, but I didn't have time for art. It was slacking and I was missing it. And then, unfortunately, I had quit my 3rd job. I used to work at Hard Rock, which was cool because I got a lot of networking with them, and I would do like a lot of free or like a lot of like nonprofit stuff, like with painting, and I'll do like fundraisers with them. So I learned that aspect of that kind of, I guess, communication with working with kids and stuff when we will have like projects there. But I left there. I still just kept the working at the art studio and bartending and managing, and then the restaurant had closed down temporarily, and so all I had was the art studio. And I came up, and I was at home. It was winter, and so I was like stuck in the house, and I was just like, I'm just gonna put my art together. And I came up with all these ideas, and I came up with a series. And from there on, like last year, I had like 2 art shows, and it just kind of started happening. And then I started having that feeling like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I don't need to really still work at the restaurant. The owner of the restaurant at the time was like, you can continue to work here and follow my dreams, or you can go follow your dreams. And I was like, oh, thanks for their support. I appreciate you believing in me. And, I have my days where I'm just kind of like, oh, my confidence is not as high. Sure. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, how am I going to get this money? But it's still the faith, and it keeps you pushing, keeps you going. Yeah. It's kind of exciting because you're just like, I never know. Someone's going to call me and say, hey, I need this commission piece. Or I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you. Like, I didn't know that was going to come, but it works out sometimes. And so
I think that the more you stay on that wavelength,
right,
the more powerful it becomes.
Right.
But when you're wavering and half in, half out, and
right,
doubts are going to be there. There's always doubts. I'm 20 years in, and I have doubts. Right. My wife tells me, this is how much money we need this month. I'm like, what the hell? That looks like a lot.
Right.
But you that's what you want to do. You don't want to do anything else.
Right.
You don't feel, I feel I would waste my time at a job.
Right.
Putting in 8 hours somewhere.
Right. And it's trying to like, and it was adjustment because sometimes even like when I will work at the studio, and I have a kid class like 8 in the morning, I'm up and I know I have to get ready for that class. But sometimes if I'm off, I'm like, how come I can't wake up at 8 o'clock and start painting for myself? Like it's just trying to like get into that habit. And my friend was like, well, if you're not a morning person, don't force yourself. Just do it when it comes. I'm like, true, but I still feel like I should be. If I can work for somebody else this hard, I need to be able to put that same energy in myself.
Correct. Yeah. So, discipline, a little bit of discipline. And you gotta push yourself. But that's where I think a collective comes into play.
Right.
Peers and a support group. That you push each other and remind each other why you're doing it and so on. So let's talk about you came out of school and you've been doing freelancing whilst going to school and had jobs, regular jobs. What was the plan? You said you're a year into a full-time artist, but you came here in Atlanta 10 years ago, and so 9 years from the time you got here, you went to school, you got out of school. What was the plan did you plan on getting a job at an agency, being an artist, a creative, or something while you were in school?
No.
So that you can one day transition?
I never attempted. And I don't think maybe, like I said, I wanted to pursue myself as a visual artist in painting. I wanted to pull my portfolio up as painting because and it was like a lot of crazy events that would happen. Like when, like my senior year of school, I lost, like my jump drives were stolen. Like I had like 3 jump, and they were all together, and I was in the computer lab at my apartment complex, and it was my fault because I left them down there by accident. But as soon as I like realized someone already took them, so it's like and I didn't have like I thought I had backups, but I didn't. It was just real random. So I had to come up with a whole new portfolio for school for for my senior project, and I was just like so discouraged. I was just like, oh, I'm supposed to just be, modifying and correcting and making it look real nice and pretty. Now I have to come up with brand new concepts just to put into my portfolio. It was really stressful, still having to work, and I just felt crazy. So I never really tried to apply to like an agency because I just felt like my work wasn't strong enough. I wasn't confident in it. So a lot of times I kind of like fell off. I fell back from the graphic design, and I would just do like, random freelance. If someone was like, oh, I need a logo or I need a flyer or whatever the case may be, I would do that for them. But I never applied to any like corporate situation. So just painting was just like what I fell back on.
So you were counting on finding a husband that you could then focus on your art the way you want to do your art.
I don't know. No, I mean that's like a back. I mean that's always like that would be nice, but it's crazy. That was like in the back of my mind. Like I would be like, oh,
because you said stay at home mom.
I wanted to be seriously
because you still can.
I knew like growing up, my mom always had to work, and I was like. My mom always had to work through school, and I was always at my grandmother's house, and then like my mom works. So my parents were, both my parents were still together. So it was just like growing up, I still want to have that father and mother in the house, but I felt like I don't want to have to put my kid in daycare. Like if my kid has to go to daycare, they have to be able to talk. Like I don't want to have to be married or have a child and I have to go back to work and put my kid in daycare. So I was like, I knew that if I went this route that I could still do my passion, do what I love, and then if that was my plan to become a mother, then I can still be at home for my child. So, but I wasn't ready to get married or anything. Like I wasn't like looking to get married right away because I knew I wanted to travel. I want to open my own business, and I felt like I need to do all this cool single stuff first before I decide to settle down and get married and have kids.
Okay. So then you worked on your not agency stuff. You did freelancing, but you worked on your own art, your own fine art. Right. And what were some of the subjects that you worked on the themes that you cover when it comes to your art, and where does those ideas and inspiration comes from?
A lot of times, well, I'm a woman, so I paint a lot of women because I know me best. I know I can paint a woman. But like I said, I incorporate a lot of nature. Right now, I'm disciplining myself to really actually sketch out my ideas. When I do watercolor, I sketch my ideas out more, and there is more thought and more organized. Acrylic, I just start with a paintbrush and see what happens. So that's what happens with acrylic. But it wasn't until pretty much like maybe 2 years ago that I really started coming up with series and ideas of how I'm going to make this work and make it a concept and make it make sense instead of having these random pieces of artwork that I would do when I'll have art shows or try to sell art pieces. They weren't cohesive. They were just random pieces that were thoughts, and if someone liked them, then they liked them, and that's what it was. It was just like whatever I came up with. So
and going along with just experimenting and trying things out, is that how you came across the opportunities of doing those classes?
Yes, and it's crazy. One of my coworkers, she was like, I think you should teach art classes, and I was just like, oh, I never really thought about it. I went to a networking event, and one of the ladies was coming in with her art supplies, and come to find out, she owned a studio, and I told her I was an artist, and she told me to come to the class, and I went to the class. There was like 100 people in there, and I thought I was just there to paint and experience, and then she introduced me like, oh, that's Courtney, she's an artist. If y'all need help, then just let her, ask her for help. And I ended up like working that night and helping people with their paintings, and it was just easy breezy, and 3 years in, I'm still painting. 3 years later, I'm still painting, teaching classes. So it just worked out. And
do you do it around other places, or just one?
No, it's one studio in particular. I did collaborate with another studio. But our scheduling, it just didn't really work out the way I wanted it to work out. So now I was just like, well, I know how to do it. I can do it on my own. So I turned my second bedroom into a studio. My first event was Valentine's Day. I had 2 couples come out. I had one of my friends is a chef, which is awesome because working in the restaurant industry, it all came together. I know chefs, and I had a chef come in, prepare like a 5-course meal, and we ate, and we drank, and we painted, and it was great. And that was my first event by myself.
This is great because it's like you're putting your life experiences together. You're grabbing bits and pieces, and you found a product, and you said, "This is how we're gonna make this a business."
Right.
And a lot of people think of the business idea and don't have any experience in any of it. You know, I've talked to people who say, I wonder how much easels cost and some paints. You know, I want to open a studio. Would you come and teach? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But once you start adding that stuff up, what it's going to take, you know, they don't realize that there's costs related to everything, and then they've never ran that type of business, or they've never been in a situation where they got to know how to run a business like that, or the art business, or dealing with stuff. And it's like when you're thinking of business ideas, you're like, oh, I'm sure that makes money, but you've never been in it. Whereas in this case, you've done the restaurant thing, you've been around businesses and the teaching and all that, and then you brought it all together and said, how can I own this and do it myself? And you had the experience, and it all came together. That's nice.
So, and it's all about experience. So those were like my internships, my paid internships. That they end up coming together to make my future dream. I've always wanted to have my own artistic lounge, and this was in the cards before. Like, I have a painting that I actually did in Houston when I did my watercolor class, and we had to do a painting of our dream. And I never finished it, but I have it, and it's crazy because I know I'm going to finish it one day. But it actually has my plan. I have me graduating. I have my diplomas. I have little kids painting, little kids, because those are going to be my art students. I have my bar. And then I have, like, me, not really me, but a couple, a pregnant woman and her husband, and then, like, a stairway to heaven. And that was, like, literally, that was my dream. And it's just kind of like I'm going on that path. It's bumps and twists and turns, but it's kind of happening. It's just kind of like you kind of do speak it into existence.
That's right. So. And the artist path is never a straight line. It's always going to be, the learning experiences, things that you realize that you shouldn't have to do anymore, and make you better and stronger. Right. So, what are your some of the 2015 goals right now? 2015. I'm like, we're halfway in. Yeah. It's halfway over. And it's crazy because a lot of times I'm in my days where I'm just like, okay, I need to get my life together. But every day I'm like, I need to get my life together. I should be painting. I should be doing something. I really need to finish my He Is series. I did my She Is series last summer, and it was like probably about 12 paintings that I painted of women that I saw myself. Or that, just faces that I saw and I was inspired by. Just random posts on Instagram or whatever, Snapchat. Well, not Snapchat, but like Pinterest, whatever, random pieces. And I just kind of, whatever I was drawn to. And that was me getting back into painting faces. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do my She Is series, and now I'm going to do my He Is. And I started doing my He Is, and it kind of fell by the wayside. I only got about 3 or 4 in. But it didn't flow as naturally as I did with the women, because I was knocking those out like back to back. And I had an art show, like 2 art shows, and I was doing, live paintings, and I do that too. Like, I try to do live paintings at random places. But so I definitely need to finish my He Is series. That is something I've been talking about. Also, just making more noise about doing these private events, because working at the studio school, like, I really do like it, but it's kind of redundant because I don't get to actually teach my concepts. It's already like a library of pictures that we have to teach from, and it kind of gets, I try to switch it up as much as I can, and I encourage creativity. So my favorite part at the end of the class is to see what people come up with, because I don't want everyone's painting the same. I don't want yours to be like everyone has to paint it the exact same way. I'm like, tell them in the beginning, choose your own colors, okay? Right. I try to give them ideas so it can just be fun and just different. But with that, I definitely want to have another opening solo show, and just working on my master plan, just trying to get I'm trying to figure out, I really want to travel. So I was like, well, how can I make this a traveling situation? Or do I want to travel first, or do I want to look for a spot, a location to actually have these events? A part of me is just leaning towards traveling. So if I can, get into a situation where I can take an event to Denver, or take an event to Houston, or I have random friends all over the states, and just hey, I want to do an art event here. How can we make this happen? So that's my goal, is really just having a good business plan to say, this is what I need, and this is how I'm going to make this happen.
Because actually, it's a good product where you can come up with this idea, have people buy these tickets,